Good afternoon, everyone. I think all of you watched the presentation of yesterday, so I don't need to introduce myself. My job is still the same, my name is still the same, so let me take you now to a journey to the cloud. But before we do that, I want to take you back about 100 to 200 years when electricity was invented. Well, shouldn't say invented, because electricity is a natural phenomenon. It was discovered. Two key people there in the beginning of the 19th century, about 1830, a famous guy called Michael Faraday. He discovered the principle of electromagnetic rotation, which is in fact the initial start of the electrical motor. And on top of that, then 50 years later, by Thomas Edison in 1878, he was able to light up or to fire up a light bulb. And in fact, electricity at that point in time became a major driving factor for the second industrial revolution. Why? Well, factories could stay open after dark, because now suddenly they had lights. Water and steam was replaced by electricity to make it a lot more efficient. And on top of it, thanks to Graham Bell's telephone invention, long-distance communication started. So it had a major impact on electricity, had a major impact on the second industrial revolution. Now, however, every factory was responsible to create their own energy, create their own electricity. There wasn't a power plant. So every factory had to build their own generators. And when they built these generators, they had to make sure that these generators are constructed big enough, so in case they're going to add extra production lines or whatever, so they don't have to always build new generators, so they overbuild generators. On top of it, they needed to have extra people to maintain and manage all these generators, make sure that they keep on running stable. On top of it, it was a pretty dangerous environment, so they need to make it more safer and so on. Now, again, in the early 20th century, about 1920, with the help of Nikola Tesla, the Thomas Edison company built the first power plant, and electrical distribution was a fact. Now, with all the advantages, of course, factories did not have to build their own generators anymore, at least not those big. Hardly no maintenance, less worries about safety, no responsibility about the stability of your current and your voltage, and eventually take electricity as much as they need and pay just what they use. Now, what's the purpose of this story? What does this have to do with the cloud? Well, in fact, that same evolution happens with the cloud. On-prem, in the past, we used to have our own servers. We used to have our own hard drives. We used to have our own people to maintain and manage all the applications. Equally, ourselves as users constantly had to update our softwares on our laptops to keep up and running and to be the same. And on top, all the security we have to take into account to store and to protect our service, to protect our data. With cloud, all of that is not needed. You don't need the service. You don't need all those large backup drives. In fact, you don't even have to worry about security, because security is handled by the cloud. It's not handled on-prem. It's more logical. A company has maybe 5 IT people, 10 IP people who protect the network. The cloud has thousands of IP people who could protect your data. Now, cloud for Crestron is nothing new. We started in 2012 with the development of Crestron. And Crestron is more residentially oriented cloud tool that was monitoring all the control systems in all the different villas and houses that we had. And in 2017, 5 years later, we had more than 130,000 control systems attached to Crestron. So we could monitor and see, or our dealers could monitor and see the health of the control systems in all these buildings. Even before 2017, when we had those 130,000 devices, in 2014, in fact, we started with the development of a commercial-graded cloud. Not residentially focused, but we wanted to build a cloud tool for the commercial world. But we soon bounced into certain limitations of that. The cloud is perfect in receiving information. In fact, it's pretty amazing at it. It can receive millions and millions of data at the same time. A cloud is perfect to receive data. But sending data, the cloud had some serious issues with this. When we simulated just only a few hundred devices receiving data from the cloud, it could took up to 30 minutes before all these 100 devices received the input from the cloud. That was not a usable model for us as Crestron to develop a monitoring and management system for you guys to monitor the health status of every device in a corporate building. That needed to be almost instantly. So we're working very close with Microsoft, the Azure team, to correct this problem. And in 2017, that was the born of the Microsoft Azure's IoT Hub. The Azure IoT Hub is a separate section within Microsoft Azure where there is a lot more capability for bidirectional communication, a lot faster, as I said. On top of it, it's also a more secure environment than the standard Azure cloud. Why is that? Well, think about all those IoT devices. Think about smart thermostats or smart lighting controllers. Those devices don't have the power to run antivirus softwares. So that protection of those devices couldn't be done locally, so you needed to protect them within the cloud. So Azure IoT Hub is even a more secure cloud environment than the standard Azure cloud. And on top of it, scale it to the millions and millions of devices. That's why, because we helped Microsoft not only identify it, but also fixing a lot of things. We had people full-time at Silicon Valley working together with the Microsoft Azure team to create this Azure IoT Hub. And that's why Microsoft named us the Partner of the Year in 2018 for IoT. That's purely because we helped them identify the issues and help them correct and created this Azure IoT Hub. Now, you might ask, why do you Crestron invest so much time and money into development of the cloud? Well, there's two main reasons. Reason number one is to make the process of installation and maintenance of a room of technology a lot more efficient. And by that, you reduce cost. Secondly, by having that data in the cloud, it can provide insights on how your spaces and the technology in the spaces are being used. And that data can be a base for future purchasing decisions or remodeling of the building. And in that, on the longer term, reduce cost. So it's all about cost and efficiency, and Crestron, unfortunately, is still be seen as a complex and expensive product. And yes, the black box itself might not be the cheapest one. But it's not about the cost of that just black box. It's about the total cost of ownership. And the total cost of ownership consists out of two main parts. Of course, you have the purchase. That's what we call the direct cost. It's the purchase of the hardware. It includes even the installation price. It's actually up until the handover of the project to the end user. And the second part is what we call indirect costs. These are costs you can't measure in advance. These are costs about maintenance, training, room downtimes. These all have a cost factor. In the IT world, they experienced this 20, 30 years ago when they moved into the cloud before the AV world. And the total cost of ownership of an IT project 15, 20 years ago was about a factor of 8 to 9 of the initial purchase price. That was the total cost of ownership. So if you paid $100,000 on the IT project, at the end of the project, at the end of the life cycle of that entire system, it has costed you almost $1 million. Now, thanks to cloud, all this could have been reduced, or can be reduced to a factor of only 3 to 4 of the total cost. So what I want to do in the next half hour is take you guys through an installation process, actually through an entire project from the beginning of the purchase of the equipment up until the end of life of that project. And I will show you how the cloud will have a massive influence on your total cost of ownership. First is, of course, the direct cost. The price of the hardware, not only the hardware, but the infrastructure cost. In fact, it starts with system designs. Selecting products that easily integrate or are made to work together are in fact a way to reduce cost. But on the other hand, On hardware itself and on the cabling and so on, cloud doesn't have an immediate effect yet. But I'll come back to that. So we all purchase the hardware, we ship the hardware on site, and now the deployment starts. So we mount all the boxes on the walls, pull the cables, and in the physical installation, cloud might indeed not have an immediate impact on your cost of the system. There are other ways to save costs there as well. Think about, if you listened to me yesterday, one of the things we try to do is to choose solutions that are easy to deploy, that are flexible to upgrade, and that can scale. This is how you can save money there. On top, when we design products, for example, our flip tops, we spend a lot of time in designing them that way that they can be installed very fast. Our closest competitor of flip-top devices, our flip-tops are installed in half the time because we spend a lot of time in the way how you have to mount them. This is just examples on how you could save cost there. But cloud becomes a very handy tool when you start to configure the system. Now, in a life without cloud, to configure a product, the product needs to be on the network. You need to take open a computer, browser, connect on that same network, and then you have the ability to configure the device. But you have to do it one by one device at a time, configure it, and you need to be physically present on the network. Of course, there are ways to do this remotely, but then you have to open up VPNs, and end users don't really like to grant you guys VPN connectivity to do these things remotely. So you very often need to be present on the network. With cloud, that's not needed. With cloud, you don't need to be on the network. In fact, cloud mainly focuses on the ability more of data getting out of the network than data coming in. Coming in a network is very tough. It's very difficult. Getting out of a network, data get out of a network is very easy. It's very fast. It's a little bit similar like the immigrations in the United States. When you go to the United States, you have to wait 2 hours in a queue to ask you all sorts of questions, why you come here, and then you're in the country. But get out, it's in 2 seconds. Just look, go. It's pretty similar as in networks. It's very tough to get in, but it's very easy to get out. That's why, by the way, most hackings appear from the inside. They drop USB sticks on the parking lot, you pick it up, look, oh, maybe some nice pictures of their wives, plug it in your laptop, and boom, you're hacked, because outbound connection is easy. And that's how we work as well. Our boxes, when they reach out to the cloud, they create a secure TLS tunnel. And once that secure tunnel is built, then data can move between the cloud and the box itself without having to worry about the security, because it's only a single secure TLS tunnel. Now, another way how cloud can help you with your total cost of ownership is that you now, as an integrator, have the ability to configure the system before it is even installed, before even the boxes are on site. So with cloud, that is unfortunately not possible. You cannot configure a Crestron product or any product without it being installed, without being fired up and running. You need to be physically there, you need to have the box. With cloud, as soon as you purchase a device from Crestron, you receive the MAC address and serial number. And then you can claim that MAC address and serial number to the cloud and say, hey, here's a MAC address and serial number of, in this case, this AirMedia box. And what happens then within the cloud, we kind of create a virtual twin of the actual box. So there is a virtual AirMedia suddenly in the cloud for you available to configure it already. So then you configure all the settings of the AirMedia device, even while the box is still in our warehouse. You can do it at your pace, when you have time, when your highest paid engineer is available to do these things. And once you've done that, you store that configuration within the cloud. Then the product actually arrives on site, it's been shipped to the site. A junior technician simply can open up the box, connect it on the network. And when the box powers up, when it boots up, it will represent or identifies itself to the cloud and says, hey, I'm this product, this is my serial number and MAC address. Ah, says the cloud, I already got the configuration for you. And the cloud will push that configuration to the box reboots, and it will be there exactly how you have configured it. That can save a lot of time, a lot of cost. And the advantage is you can do this with multiple devices simultaneously. For example, you have to install 50 Mercuries. Mercury is a all-in-one speakerphone, USB speakerphone, but it has a touchscreen, it has AirMedia built-in, it has HDMI connectivity built-in, it has Bluetooth connectivity built-in, even has SIP connectivity built-in. Let's say you have to deploy 30 here in Sweden and 20 in France. The same end user, he has 2 offices, one here in Sweden and one in France. Now you can go into the cloud, you claim all these 50 Mercuries. You can do that through a CSV file. Just upload the CSV file in the cloud and you have all your 50 Mercuries there. You drag 20 of them to France and 30 of them to Sweden. Then you go to France and you go to the Mercury device and you say the language, because in France they speak French. I want the touchscreen language, all of that to be in French language. So I say language French. I select this Vink because that's now for all Mercuries under this group of France. You can do this for all the settings. For example, the time format. In France, they like the 24. 17 hours is 5 p.m. We might be here in Sweden, you like maybe 5 p.m. So set all these settings, group level. Once you store this, save setting on the top, boom. As soon as you connect and open up those 20 boxes, you connect those 20 Mercuries in Paris, when they boot up, they will be in French. And they will have the 24-hour hour there. So this is saves a lot of time, makes a lot more efficient, and by that, reduce cost. Now, we have configured the products. Now the programmer has almost finished the entire program for the room, and then now it goes on site normally and uploads his program. And what then does is that the end users will send test users in the room, and this process very often can take 1 week, 2 weeks, 5 weeks, 2 months, depending on the feedback that the end user wants to give. Very often, the end user says, well, yeah, I have to click to 3 pages. We always use this function. Can you bring this function to the main page? Because we always use that. Again, without cloud, you have to make sure the room is available. You go in, schedule your time, drive up there, upload your program, wait for another feedback from the test users, and then do some modifications, go back, wait until the room's free. You understand the hassle, you live it day in, day out. With cloud, that's not needed. With cloud, you can store the program. You store your control system program, even your touchscreen layouts, you can store them within the cloud. For this specific room, on this CP4N, this is the simple Windows program. This is your control system program. And for that touch panel, here's your VT Pro E file, your layout. And you store them in that room in the cloud. And you can schedule when they will be updated or uploaded into the system and run them through the cloud or not. So again, saving a lot of time and efficiency and thus cost. So you hand over the project. It's done. That means your direct cost you can invoice. Now let's look how the cloud then will also influence your indirect costs. And indirect costs, so it's all about operational, maintenance, updates, services, and equally failures. Room downtimes, security issues, etc. This is all indirect cost. Now let's first look at the service and support. A few months ago, I visited one of the largest universities in Europe. They have about 100,000, more than 100,000 students, and they give about 10,000 lectures or classes per week. And I spoke pretty long with the service team, and they explained me that they receive each day between 5 and 10 service calls. Most of it, 90% of the service calls they receive are user-related issues, specifically in a university. Those professors are, we call it in Dutch, vakidioten. They're idiots in their own direction. That's the only thing they know, and all the rest is, they're the most stupid people with all the rest. You know, so very often they are afraid and they make mistakes and they go on the touch panel and they want to present their laptop and they see an icon of PC, they click PC and suddenly it's a desktop of the in-room PC and they're confused. And Normally, they call up the service people, and the service person on the phone tries to help him out. If it doesn't work, he has to run through the auditorium and help the professor go to the touchscreen and press the right source. That's what their day in, day out is. Now, with cloud, you can take over the touchscreen from anywhere. You could even be on holiday on the beach on Ibiza. Take your laptop on your lap, get the service call, open up cloud, log in, take over the touchscreen, and help the teacher in the room. It's that easy. What about the other 10%? The hardware failures, or the failures, mainly it was power supply or cabling issues. Connectors that are loose, or power supplies that fail. In those cases, in those instances, the cloud can send you alerts. And the big difference here is that the alerts come in through either SMS, email, or we have even a bidirectional communication with the service now, so a ticket is automatically created. But this is not created when the end user notices it. This ticket or this alert is being sent the moment it occurs. And there is a big difference. Because at 9 a.m. in the morning, when you receive an alert at 2 a.m. in the morning, you can make sure that before 9 you're in that room and fix the problem. Before, normally you receive at 9 a call or at 9:05 a call that the room is down. So again, you can be proactive instead of reactive. And how these alerts within Excel Cloud, just show you a few examples for a touchscreen. You can create alerts when a specific touchscreen goes offline. Somebody drops it, somebody disconnected the cable. As soon as the cloud noticed that the touchscreen is offline, and that's why that bidirectional communication for us was needed, that it was fast, because we want to know it as soon as possible and not 30 minutes later. So this is an example, another example, but in fact you can do that for every feature or function of a product, like Mercury. You see, I can create alerts for call status, occupancy status, sleep status. That means if Mercury goes into sleep, I can generate an alert. I know it's a stupid example, but I just want to show you that you can create alerts if somebody presses the mute button. Anything is possible. All the features of the products are available here on which you want to be able to receive alerts or warnings, etc. So you can also identify it needs to be a critical warning, severity. I want to make sure I get it immediately, or just I don't want to receive an email. I just want to have a notification, whatever. So these are all things you can set up in the cloud. Also updating firmware, crucial. Firmware not only adds extra functionalities, but firmware also very often fixes bugs and improves security on products, adding extra ways on solving certain vulnerabilities. Look at, for example, NVX. We released DM NVX, our AV over IP solution, in 2017. By 2019, we already had more than 140,000 devices installed across the globe. And by the way, we are reaching our 1 millionth. I don't know if you've seen it at ISE. We're very close to our 1 millionth of NVX that we ship. Now, in February at ISE of 2019, we released a new firmware that contained the pixel perfect processing codec. It was a major improvement on how NVX was transmitting data, or transmitting the video on the network. That now, with this pixel perfect processing codec, you couldn't see a difference between the source directly connected to the display or the source through NVX connected to the display. It was everybody wanted to have this firmware update. Now, what happened? That you all had to go make appointments with all your end users where you already installed NVX devices. Then your technicians had to download that pixel perfect processing firmware on their laptops, take their vans, drive up to the room, make sure first of course that the rooms are free, and then upload every NVX product one by one by one by one. Takes a lot of time. With XR Cloud, none of that is needed. With XR Cloud, I simply log into the cloud, I schedule at middle of the night, at 2 a.m. in the morning, then the room's definitely free. I schedule at that day, at that time, and I don't even have to look for the firmware because we store the latest firmwares of all our products within XR Cloud. So as soon as you go to a specific product, it is always the latest firmware. You can even have a drop down of other firmwares to select. But it's all available. And by that, we're not only saving you a lot of time, a lot of cost, but equally saving the environment a little bit because less cars on the road to do these type of things. Now, XOW Cloud is mainly ownership from the end user. The end user owns the tenant of XOW Cloud. But you guys have a lot of situations where the end user is asking you to service and maintain all the rooms. So within XOW Cloud, we added a portal, a dealer portal, where you as a dealer, once you log in, see all your projects where you have the maintenance contract for. And as soon as you click on one of the projects, you see straight away an overview of all the devices in that building. And then you go to launch account, and when you do that, you're in their tenant. You're in their XOW Cloud tenant, like you're part of their organization. The end user can grant you permanent access. He can grant you only access when he wants it to. Maybe he can do that ad hoc. And it's even so, and I know you don't like this, but certain parts of the project might be installed by integrator number one. Another project part of the rooms might be installed by another integrator. The end user can say, for your rooms, the other integrator is responsible for their rooms. All this is possible within XOW Cloud. Of course, something that nobody likes is room downtime. Flat line. We don't want a flat line. Besides hardware failures and connectivity failures, you have those alerts, all that. Let's quickly talk about security. And they say the S in IoT stands for security. And I know, I'm aware, there is no S in IoT because there is no security in IoT devices. So, unfortunately, we in the AV industry are no longer unaffected by hackings. The hackers found also their way to the AV world. I don't know if you remember in 2013 or 2014, someone found a vulnerability in our first generation of Air Media boxes, and it was all spread over the news. And we were not alone. There was a lot of other wireless presentation solutions out there in the world that had the same vulnerability that was discovered. But I want to say is that the cost of a successful attack is high for an organization. It lays into €500,000 to €1 million that it will cost for a company. Now, those firmware updates, like I said, are crucial. They contain latest security patches. We at Crestron have a full-time 4 people that do nothing else than monitoring all the vulnerabilities in the world. We even, on top of that, hire white hat hackers. So the good guys, they hack because we ask them to hack our products. And based on that, we fix those vulnerabilities and put them in the next firmware release. We have a website called security.crestron.com where you can report this, where you can see all the things we do there on security level. And as well, you've probably seen that our NVX is JITC or Common Criteria certified. It is a certification by the highest military grades. Yeah, even all NATO countries support this. So our NVX, our products are, and I dare to say, are the most secure AV products in the world. We do this already for as long as I work for Crestron, and that's 26 years. So security is one of our highest stakes that we have. Now, let's take you to the last part of this project, is coming to the end of life, going to evolve. Evolve is data. Data is the new gold, they say. With data, gives you so much valuable information that you can save a lot of money based on analyzing the data. And as I mentioned yesterday, the future of that will be, of course, with AI, where AI will analyze the data. Today, you will have to analyze the data. What we do within that data is we store all the data of everything that happens within that building with technology, but equally not only with technology, also with room utilization. First of all, with technology, again, coming back to our Mercury, like I said, Mercury is a USB speakerphone. You can inject HDMI and project HDMI that way. There is Air Media built in, there is a SIP phone, there are Bluetooth connectivities. You can identify within the cloud, and over a time period, you can say how often have they used the USB connectivity. So how often have they used actually Mercury as a speakerphone? How often have they connected through air media? How often have they used Bluetooth or SIP dialings? All that information is available. So you know, and you can have that data available for you to see how did my users use these devices. And coming end of life of a project, you need to reinvest and say, do I will buy that again, or have my users not used this? So in that case, again, it has a major impact on your direct cost as well, on the purchase of your devices. Because you can, based on the analytics of your data, know what do I need to buy, because what do my users use? Another part is of that data, not only how your technology is being used, but also how your rooms are being used. And for that, we use multiple technologies. One of that is people counting. We can know how many people are in a particular room where you have our cameras. Very interesting, very important data. If I have 5 meeting rooms that accommodate 10 people, but I see that they are only used almost most of the time with 4 or 5 people, then I know I can split all those meeting rooms up and create 20 meeting rooms for 5 people. And I never have complaint calls again that they can't find an available meeting room. So in that case, that's what I mean with data as gold. And it's not only with cameras, the amount of people, but we also have these motion sensors, which we are using to identify if rooms are being used or not. This is how you know how your rooms are being used. So combine the two, it gives you valuable data on how certain rooms have been used. And you can pull all these reports from all your buildings, from all your rooms, from separate rooms, from den to den. You can all set it up, and XR Cloud will generate you a report on how people have been using your spaces. Again, reduce cost. Driving purchasing decisions, and equally behavioral change. In the past, I always used the example of video conferencing. Video conferencing was, today it's not that expensive anymore, but 10 years ago was easily 50k, 100k euros for video conferencing system. And what we often heard from end users was that those video conference rooms are always booked. They're always constantly booked from 9 to 5, every day, Monday to Friday. So when I build as a CEO, when I build a new building, I'm going to ask my facility man, how many video conference rooms do we need to build? Your facility man will say, well, build at least 2 or 3, because the one we have is always booked. With XR Cloud, you can see, indeed, they're always booked. But then also with XR Cloud, you can see how often they used video conferencing. And then you probably see they only did it like 1 hour a day. So that means all the other 7 hours, they use the video conference room as a nice environment to have internal meetings. Why? Because very often the video conference room, it's the window to the world. So you have the best seats, the best table, the nicest view over the city, maybe even a mini bar. And people use that room just to have internal meetings and not doing the video conferencing. So again, you can also use that data to change behaviors of people. And as I said, with AI, we are testing it already, unleash AI to find patterns, to come up with predictive maintenances. Now, it's all cool, you say, but hey, there is more technology in the building than Crestron. So, XR Cloud, just for Crestron. Well, no, XR Cloud is not only for Crestron. XR Cloud can, of course, do all Crestron audio video gear, all our user interfaces. With Crestron Flex, of course, it can monitor and manage the entire Crestron Flex, our UC portfolio, but not only the Crestron Flex devices, but all attached USB peripherals as well. So it's not only Crestron devices. If you add a Poly E70 camera on a Flex system, we can monitor and manage that Poly E70 camera as well through the Flex solution. Then, of course, all sync devices, displays, projectors, amplifiers, mixers, PDUs, Gude PDU, fully monitored and manageable through XR Cloud. Also AV sources, satellite, cable box, Blu-ray, video service, video conferencing codecs can be monitored directly through XR Cloud. In fact, every IP device can be managed and monitored through XR Cloud. And there are 3 ways to do this. Way number 1 is what we call Crestron Connected. And Crestron Connected is, we have with a lot of manufacturers, they build in XR Cloud natively within their display or within their projector. That means if you connect their projector or display directly onto the network, it will reach out to XR Cloud and provide that data to XR Cloud so you can monitor that projector or display. That's way number one. That's of course the most widest integration possible because there's nothing to be done. It's all there already. The second method is through a Crestron control system. You can use a Crestron control system as a gateway for all its connected RS-232 and network devices that the control system has. For example, for manufacturers who do not have XR Cloud Native built in, you can still monitor and manage their devices through a control system and into XR Cloud. And the third way is the broadest way, is with XR Cloud Gateway software. We have also a piece of software, it's called XR Cloud Gateway, that you can install on-prem on a machine. And there you can also load those same drivers. Then of course you don't have automation. It's not that you can then control those devices. You need a control system for that. But you can still monitor those devices. Not only through the drivers, but also the Cloud Gateway software can send simple ping commands. And when it sends a ping command, it receives a reply so it knows the device is healthy on the network. That's just the basic of monitoring. But of course, it can also do SNMP requests and so. So you get a lot more data through SNMP that you can then send within XR Cloud. On top, every product, not only Crestron products, even the products you just said, let's say a coffee machine. Well, I don't know why I point there, but a coffee machine. A network-based coffee machine. Let's imagine it exists. I can use a ping command to monitor if that coffee machine is still healthy on the network. That's okay. Then I see coffee machine. I called it Stijn's IoT device test. It's a coffee machine. I can add 5 network URLs to that coffee machine, and they will be there within XR Cloud. Imagine the coffee machine has a web interface. So I can take the URL of the web interface of that coffee machine within XR Cloud. And then I have it here as a link. And when I'm in XR Cloud and there is something wrong with the coffee machine, because I see it, it's not responding on my ping reply, I can click on the hyperlink. Probably it won't work then if the coffee machine is offline. But think about firmware updates of projectors or displays or other devices. Legally, we're not allowed to host the Sony firmwares on our XR Cloud. It's not possible. So what you can do is, if you have a Sony display, you can go to the Sony FTP site where you download the drivers or the firmwares for those displays. Just click on the link and boom, you're staying within XR Cloud and an extra page opens, you download that Sony firmware and you upload it in the system. So XR Cloud is really your single pane of glass. Remember yesterday, the challenge of today, you guys have to do a lot more with less people or the same amount of people. XR Cloud is not only for the large spaces. XR Cloud can be for every space. Now you have full visibility of every space, even with those stupid just ping requests. And if you look at spaces in a building, you can separate them kind of in 3 main categories. You have BYOD rooms, simple BYOD rooms. You have one-touch to join rooms, meaning these are rooms where 99.9% of the cases you do video conference, you walk in, you press join, and that's it. And then you have, of course, the complex and custom spaces. All of these can be monitored through XR Cloud. From DM Lite devices to Air Media devices in BYOD spaces to our Flex and all the USB peripherals in the one-touch to join rooms to NVX, NX, NUX, control systems and touch panels all in your complex spaces. So XR Cloud is a management tool not only for the custom rooms, only for the Crestron devices, but for your entire building. Have that full visibility. Do more with less. That's what XR Cloud enables you to do. And it's not only with AV. In fact, our entire smart scheduling is also fully available through XR Cloud. And through those hyperlinks and custom integration, you can still provide full service of the entire building. And all of that with the REST API. XR Cloud has an API. All data, live and historical data, can be pulled and pushed from XR Cloud through that REST API. Maybe you already have developed your own monitoring platform where you monitor your installations. But today, your monitoring platform has to reach out to each Crestron device individually and pull the data into your own monitoring tool. With the API, Your tool only need to talk to XOU Cloud and gets all the data from all Crestron devices direct to you. It's much easier, much simpler. And that might be the base of providing more AV as a service and allowing end users to only pay for what they use. It's like electricity. Thank you.